Well, welcome back to Flint Hills Briar. I'm Gareth. Same as always. And I don't even know the last time I recorded a video. Kind of been busy with stuff and that, and just not really feeling like anything all that interesting was going on, I guess. At home, anyway. But, coming to you from the Flint Hills of Kansas. Camping out here for the weekend. One of the places I come to quite a bit. Last year I was going to camp here, and it was a rather warm, nice weather, not necessarily the most fall-like weather type weekends. And I came out here, and I usually try to camp in this campsite. Not only was this one filled, which I knew it may have been, but pretty much all the other campsites around here were totally filled, which I don't think I'd ever seen it quite that busy. So I went somewhere else last October. But this weekend it's been pretty. It's rainy and just kind of crappy. It's not particularly cold. It's just kind of in the 50s. Even at night, it's not a whole lot cooler than that. And like last night and tonight, it's not supposed to get all that cool. But today's just been kind of somewhere in the 50s with some drizzle, a little bit of rain. But hasn't been a big downpour or anything like that. I have my tarp set up over the picnic table. Camped in brought my hammock, set up so I have the hammock underneath the tarp back in the trees. Keeps me nice and dry for the most part in the rain. I've weathered some pretty nasty storms with that hammock setup, to where like it was blowing more sideways than not, it seems like, with some storms. And I've stayed pretty well dry. The underquilt that's underneath the hammock helps. It's somewhat water repellent. So if it gets a little bit of water on the outside, it's down. But if it gets a little bit of water on the outside, it's not that big of a deal. It dries and you're fine. But yeah, I don't mind camping when it's wet. It can get a bit old at times, but like tonight, I'm hoping that it dries out enough, or stops raining, drizzly, whatever, enough that I can have a campfire, because I really enjoy sitting by campfires at night. But we'll see. If that doesn't work out, it is what it is. But anyway, out here smoking some Cowboy Coffee by Country Squire. It's good stuff. Even if I'm not drinking Cowboy Coffee, it's a pour over funnel whatever coffee. This actually has some hot cocoa in it. I dug it out of my camp kitchen box, and it's old enough that I had to kind of break it up a bit. It was sticking together. I wouldn't quite call it solid, I guess, but I had to break up the chunks. Tastes fine. But yeah, well, shoot, it's been like a month ago now. Mrs. Flint Hill Briar and I, we went out on our Grand Yellowstone and other places vacation. It was a good trip. We went up to the Badlands and stayed a couple nights with family, friends in Rapid City. Went to the Black Hills. Went to Mount Rushmore. Actually went the night we got there, and we went and ate up at a restaurant in Keystone, I think it was. And then we went to Mount Rushmore, little bit before the sun went down. And they were doing the evening program things. So we were able to do that, where they light up the faces and do some other stuff like veterans and stuff, which was pretty cool. And next day we did more Black Hills stuff, and then we headed on over to Devil's Tower. And I wasn't really planning on doing it, but I wound up hiking all the way around Devil's Tower. It didn't take as long as I would have thought. Got on this trail, I was gonna go a little ways on it, and it got to a point where I was like halfway around it, so I just kept going. That was really neat. I've always thought Devil's Tower was a neat place to visit. The only other time I'd been there was back in 1992, and all we did was like saw it from the distance, from just outside of the National Monument boundary there, because it was so late they were basically closing very soon. We spent the night in Sheridan, Wyoming. And it was right as we got out of the Black Hills. My wife's phone did something funny to where it started restarting, and at one point in time it had like some sort of like Chinese or something characters show up on it, but it kept restarting over and over. It got really hot and all this stuff, and just nothing that we could try doing caused that to be any better. So she backed up all her files as best she could, and then because Sheridan had a T-Mobile store, we stopped at T-Mobile because that was the last T-Mobile place we were gonna be around for basically until we were headed home. So we headed on over there and spent about 3 hours at the frickin' T-Mobile store. But yeah, she wound up just getting a new phone. I got a new phone too because might as well. My old one was like 3+ years old. And so anyway, we got new phones, then headed into the Bighorn Mountains and stopped at a little picnic spot where my family, we had stopped that trip we went out in 1992. I took some pictures, and we ate lunch there, and then headed west. And as we were going over the Bighorns there, it was rainy as we were going through the mountains there, and it actually started snowing a bit, where it wasn't sticking or anything like that, but it was neat driving through the mountains, the Bighorns, and snowing. And went down the west side, and we got to Cody, Wyoming, and they have stuff there to see, and they have some cool museums there. But it was so late because of the whole phone thing. We headed on to Yellowstone, and drove in the east entrance to the park. And there's this thing that's on the east side of the park, where it's this overlook that looks over Yellowstone Lake. And last time in 2006 we went there, my family, I went up to this overlook, so I knew it was a neat view, and I wanted to see it again. And I knew the only, like, schedule wise, it only really made sense to do as we were driving into the park that evening. So we stopped up there and wound up seeing like 7 or 8 wolves and a grizzly bear off into the distance. Some guy was looking at it with a spotting scope, and I had bought some nice loophole, or whatever you call it, pronounce it, binoculars. But I also have this cheap piece of junk Tasco brand spotting scope. I bought it for probably $50, which I decided, I was debating whether I should bring it or not. I decided just bring it. Didn't take up a lot of room, and if you want it, you'll have it. If you leave it at home, you don't have it. But anyway, used it, immediately, really, upon getting into the park. The optics are junk, but it's better than nothing. And I, was able to see these wolves and grizzly bear. I'd seen grizzly bear before, grizzly bear or two in the park there in Yellowstone, but I had never seen wolves. First time I went to Yellowstone, the wolves weren't even there yet. That was like 3 years later they introduced them. But anyway, yeah, we got some really cool wildlife viewing. Saw some wolves the next morning up in the Slough Creek / Lamar Valley. Um, saw another grizzly bear in the Hayden Valley. Um, saw some black bears a couple different times. Um, one of which was a mother and maybe like a year old, roughly year old cub. This is at a distance. They weren't close or anything. But and saw the Yellowstone sites, the hot springs, the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone, just all the stuff. And it was a lot of running around and trying to get all this stuff seen in the 3 days or whatever. And my wife, I knew that it was going to be a bit of a challenge for her to just kind of put up with the running around and all that, but it worked out fine. Spent a couple nights outside of the park down in Island Park, something like that, in Idaho, at a Airbnb, like little cabin rental thing. Mostly because it was cheaper than like staying in West Yellowstone or Gardner, and you got more for your money. It was this new little cabin unit thing. It was a longer drive, and we went out and I wanted to do a little hike on a trail we could do it together, something that was short and flat. And we did. It was kind of neat because we got out there fairly late. Essentially as the sun was starting to go down. And we hiked up the Bacon Rind Trail a little ways. It's up in the northwestern part of the, kind of far northwestern part of Yellowstone. I was hoping to see some animals. I saw some deer, but that was about it. But anyway, and the second 2 nights we stayed at the Old Faithful Inn in one of the they're called the old house rooms. It's like the original part of the building it's all made with wood and everything. It's really cool. And that was a neat experience. Just hanging out in the Old Faithful Inn there, and in the evening, just everybody or a lot of people kind of congregate in the big lobby there. And there was some lady that was performing live music and with a piano and I don't know what else, but she was pretty decent. It was just a really, really neat experience. And oh yeah, I went and did a little hike to there's a hot spring called not hot spring, a geyser called the Lone Star Geyser, and it was about 4 or 5 miles from Old Faithful, and I wanted to do this hike for more than one reason, but I didn't want to burn up a lot of time doing it. So I got started. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning, left the Old Faithful Inn, and hiked out there, and got out there at, it was like 4:35, whatever, in the morning. The sun hadn't come up yet, and the geyser was actually erupting when I got to it, and I could see it well enough with my headlamp. But I decided I was going to stay out until the sun came up. So I had to wait around for an hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. It wasn't terribly cold. It was like, I'd guess maybe 28 degrees, 30 degrees Fahrenheit, of course. I just put on everything I had and just all the clothing I had and stayed warm enough. But sun came up, and I hiked out on the different trail back, kind of made a loop route of it. And the trail I went back on is part of the Continental Divide Trail. But yeah, it was neat, like watching Old Faithful erupt from they have a little observation deck on the front of the Old Faithful Inn. We sat up there and you could see Old Faithful erupting, and I don't know, it was just a neat experience. And then we, after we left Yellowstone, we went down through the Grand Teton National Park, and went to some different vantage points and took some pictures, like Oxbow Bend and Mormon Row and stuff like that. I was hoping that we could see some moose, because my wife really likes seeing moose, and she hasn't seen them. She's only seen moose like twice ever out in the wild, and I was on the same morning at Rocky Mountain National Park a few years back. Never saw any moose. Kind of was hoping, but thought we'd be more likely to see them in the Tetons, but we didn't see any. But yeah, I took my SLR, my old Nikon film camera, and 4 rolls of slide film. The first roll, because I hadn't put a roll of film in this thing for like 15 years, I don't think I loaded it right, so I don't think it was advancing the film through as I was taking pictures, or I thought I was taking pictures. So all the pictures in the Badlands and the Black Hills and Devil's Tower and the Bighorn Mountains, I don't think those pictures happened, but we'll see. I sent the rolls of film off to a place in Parsons, Kansas, called Dwayne's Photo, and I haven't gotten the pictures back yet, which I'm not worried about it yet. But yesterday I started looking into reviews for that place, and it sounds like it used to be a good place to send your film, and it sounds like it isn't anymore. To the point where I regret having sent my film there, and I'm hoping and praying that I get my pictures back in a reasonably timely manner, and they don't like lose them, and that they process them well and don't screw them up. And I don't know. Anyway, I don't know. I'm a little worried about that, but yeah, I'm gonna wrap this up. This is getting long and all that, but I got some black and white film for my camera, because I'd never shot real black and white film before. But I was taking some pictures out here this morning. Even in this light, I mean, I'm kind of hoping maybe something neat will come out of it, but just playing around using different filters and things, color filters and stuff, and we'll see. I am not going to send my black and white film to this Dwayne's Photo place. I'm going to find some other place. But anyway, that's what's going on. So out here camping, and yep. Here in about a month, I'll probably go down to the Elk River Trail and do that again, and hopefully I'll do some videos between now and then. But thanks for joining me. I'm Gareth with Flint Hills Briar. I'll see you next time.